I just ran the 2025 Santa Rosa Marathon on August 24th of this year. It was a beautiful, flat, and fast course out in wine country, California. It was a great race. Luckily, I was able to hit my goal time and set a new PR. And in this video, I want to do a quick race review of the Santa Rosa Marathon specifically, give you some advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons of running this race, so that if you or someone you know is planning on running it, then you can know a little bit more about it before going into it. So let's just jump right into the advantages of running Santa Rosa. First off, already touched on it, but it is a very pretty course. You're running through Sonoma County, California, which is wine country, so you're going through a lot of farmland, vineyards, and the countryside. It's very pretty, you got great views the whole time. At one point, you even go through the barrel room of a winery, so that's pretty cool. And the start line and finish line of this race are in downtown Santa Rosa, so there's a little bit of city running, but the majority of the mileage is done out in the countryside. So there's a lot of greenery, cows, open spaces, really pretty race, and definitely no complaints there. The second advantage of running this race is that it is a relatively flat course. Here's the elevation profile for this race, only 360 feet of elevation gain total, so that puts it up there with some of the flatter courses like Berlin and Chicago. So if you're going for a fast time like I was, this is definitely a good option. I knew going into this race that I wanted to set a PR and fingers crossed get a Boston qualifying time. So that's a big reason why I chose Santa Rosa and a big reason why you might want to do it as well, especially if you're going for a fast time. The third advantage of running this race was that the weather was ideal. It was 55 degrees Fahrenheit and overcast at the start line. And even though the weather app on my phone said the sun was supposed to come out by 9 or 10 a.m. and get a little hotter, the sun actually didn't come out until I think 11 a.m. or noon, so it actually just stayed overcast the entire time I was running. The marine layer just stayed there, keeping it nice and cool, keeping the sun away. And it was mid-50s when I started and low 60s Fahrenheit when I finished, so it was really just ideal race conditions the entire time. Now, obviously the weather changes year to year and it's going to depend on what year you run this race, but even though August is a relatively hot month for Santa Rosa, since it's so early in the morning, you're probably going to have that marine layer there keeping it nice and cool. And fingers crossed you also have ideal weather conditions when you run a race as well. Weather conditions are another big factor in getting a fast time, so I wanted to mention that just in case you were worried about it being too hot, which hopefully, again, fingers crossed when you run it, it's not. The fourth advantage to running this race is that it was a relatively small crowd. According to my race results, only 1,349 people finished the full marathon. Not sure how many half marathoners there were, but yeah, under 1,400 people for a race like this is really not too bad. I also noticed the starting corral was not crazy crowded, and for me to go from my position in the start corral to crossing the start line only took me about 10 to 12 seconds or so based on the time difference between when I crossed the finish line, which was a little over 2:55, and my official race chip time, which was 2:54.50. So basically it didn't take me that much time to actually cross the start line as compared to some bigger races that I've done where the crowd size is a lot bigger and more crowded, where it takes a while to actually start the time. So you have a lot bigger time difference between the official time and chip time. And this race was not just small people-wise, but also size-wise as well, as in the path that we were running on was relatively narrow. This did make it a little bit difficult to pass bigger groups. I think I was behind the 3-hour marathon pacers for a little bit before I was able to pass them. But I also think it contributes to the reason why I ran so much less total distance than I usually do for marathons. I noticed that after I crossed the finish line for this race and stopped the time on my watch, the total distance that I ran was only 26.29 miles, which is considerably less than when I usually run bigger races, which comes out to like 26.5 or 26.6 miles. For instance, the Jersey City Marathon I ran last year came out to 26.63 miles, and Austin Marathon I did 2 years before that was 26.64. So that means I ran almost a third of a mile less than I normally do for marathons, which I think contributed even more to me getting a faster time. And that could be because of GPS differences with my watch or Strava or something, but I mostly attribute that to the path being so narrow and not having a whole lot of space for bobbing and weaving or big wide turns that can add considerable amounts of distance, like with bigger marathons. So that's another huge plus and another big reason to consider doing this race if you want to get a fast time. Advantage number 5 of this race is that you get great swag, like this jacket. Also get this cool medal, obviously. But yeah, I really like this jacket. I like the black and gold coloring. Last year it was red, blue, and white, I believe. They change up the colors every year. But I do appreciate it when races give out good swag like this rather than a crappy t-shirt that I'm never going to wear or something like that. But this is really good quality and I will be wearing it for years to come. They also give you free wine. I actually got 2 of them because a friend that I ran with didn't want his. But if I'm not mistaken, this is the winery of the barrel room that you run through during the course. So that's really cool. It's a local Santa Rosa brand. Your bib also comes with 2 free beer coupons that you can use at the end. And they also have non-alcoholic beer options too, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, the swag for this race was really cool. And thank you to the Santa Rosa Marathon for that. The 6th and final pro of running this race that I want to mention is that the race day photo experience was awesome. As soon as I finished, I just scanned this QR code on my bib, and then it brought up this web page that had my official time and then all my race day photos below that. And the thing I really like about these photos is that there's no crazy annoying watermarks on top. With a lot of the other races I've done, they have watermarks on each photo, and then you have to pay some exorbitant fee to get rid of them. But with each one of these, there was only a little thing that said Santa Rosa Marathon finisher and the date, and then there's even a little download button on the bottom of each photo so you can get all those. So yeah, that was really awesome. I really appreciate Santa Rosa for doing that. It's a way better race day photo experience than I've had with pretty much every other race that I've done. So shout out to them for that, and thank you. So those were all the advantages of running this race. Now let's go over some of the downsides, or really just things to be aware of. None of these are crazy deal breakers. I'm just offering some constructive criticism here. So the biggest downside of this race for me personally was the fact that the full marathon and half marathon actually merged together for the final 3 to 4 miles or so. What this means is that since the full marathon start time was 6:30 a.m. and the start time for the half was 7:30, by the end of the race, let's say 9:30 a.m., which is around the time I finish, you've basically got 3-hour marathoners running with 2-hour half marathoners. So you've got people running at a 6:40 to 6:50 per mile pace, running with people at a 9-minute per mile pace. And there's nothing wrong with that, but since the path is so narrow, it can make it a little bit difficult to pass people. So I had to do a considerable amount of bobbing and weaving towards the end. And a lot of the other full marathoners I was running with would just yell on your left, and half marathoners were very kind and courteous. They just got off the side and we passed. So it's really not a huge deal. It is something I want to mention though, because I think it is a factor if you're considering doing a race like this, especially if you're nearing your goal time at the end and you have to pick up the pace. Just know that it may be a little bit difficult with the amount of people and congestion that there is toward the end of the race in those final few miles. According to my splits for this race, mile 25 and 26 were the slowest miles. And full disclosure, that's mostly because my legs were completely toast and I was getting really tired. But this bobbing and weaving and having to pass people, I think played a little bit of a factor as well. So I just wanted to bring it up because I think it's something to be aware of. I'm not sure if the organizers of this race plan on keeping this schedule going forward into future years. I know some races just start the half and full at the same time and they split off at some point during the race. Other races do them on entirely different days. So I don't know what the right answer is here. I just want to bring that up because it's one of the only races that I've seen that does it in this way where they actually merge at the end and start at different times. I've got a couple more downsides I want to go over, but before I do that, I just want to give a quick plug to a website I made called dylanruns.com. I get a lot of questions asking me what gear I use for running, so I just made a really basic website that lists all the running gear I use, including my sunglasses, shorts, shoes, running belts, everything like that. And they are affiliate links, so I do get a little bit of kickback for them if you decide to use them, so I'd really appreciate that. It's a really easy way to support the channel. So if you want to check that out, you can click the first link in the description below or just go to dylanruns.com. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's finish up with the final few downsides of running this race. There are a lot of dirt paths throughout this race, so if you're expecting an exclusively road race on asphalt, just know that there is a good bit of dirt and gravel paths that you're running on. Now this could be seen as a pro or a con. I kind of like running on dirt because it's lower impact and a change of surface, but maybe if you've got really nice race day shoes like brand new Alpha Flies, you don't want to get dirty or something, then it's just something I want to bring up and mention just in case it's a factor for you. I didn't personally feel like the dirt was too loose to where I would lose my footing or anything like that, but I guess I did maybe do a little bit of sliding. Again, not a huge deal or deal breaker, just something to be aware of going into this race. Another small downside is that at the aid stations, the cups for water and electrolyte mix were the same color. This one, admittedly, is pretty nitpicky. Again, I'm just trying to come up with some constructive criticism here to mention, but in a lot of other races I've done, the cups for water and electrolyte are actually different colors. Maybe they'll do white for water and blue for electrolyte. That way there, whenever you go to the aid station, you know which cup you're grabbing and you don't have to ask anybody. But again, it's not a huge deal. I would just stop, usually pause my music or take out my earbud, ask the volunteers which one they had. a lot of times they were already yelling out which they had, water or electrolyte, and then I would grab the water, drink it, and move on. So yeah, I knew going into this race, because of my fueling strategy, I only wanted water at each aid station because I was getting electrolyte from the chews and sodium pills that I was taking. So I would just briefly ask, grab the water, move on. Again, not a huge deal, very minor detail, just something I wanted to bring up just in case they wanted something to improve upon for next year. And the aid stations were very frequent, I think every 5K or so, so definitely no complaints on the frequency of them or anything like that. And shout out to the awesome volunteers out there for setting all the stuff up. The final thing that I wanted to mention is that when you're running this race, you're probably going to experience a bit of a cow poop smell. Again, you're running through farmlands and vineyards in the countryside, so you're probably going to experience a bit of that organic manure aroma. Maybe if you live in a rural area or countryside, that's probably a smell that you're already used to, or if you're a city slicker like me, maybe it's not a smell that you're totally accustomed to. But either way, I don't think this is a big deal. Maybe just another small minor factor to be aware of if you're going to be running this. But yeah, there are a lot of cows out there. They're doing their business, so you're going to get a bit of that smell, I guess. So those are all the things that I wanted to mention about this race. In conclusion, it's flat, it's fast, you have good views. Just expect a little bit of congestion towards the end with potentially slower runners. But all things considered, this is one of the best marathons I've done, and overall, I would definitely recommend running it if you're on the fence about it. I want to give a quick shout out to the videographer I hired that got these cool B-roll clips that you've seen throughout this video. He's a local Santa Rosa photographer named David, and his company is Z9 Media. I'll leave a link to his company down in the description below. I'll also leave a link to where you can sign up for this race if you want to run it yourself. And as a quick reminder, you can go to dylanruns.com to see all the race gear that I use. It includes all the equipment that I use training for this race and on race day itself. So if you have any questions about that stuff, it should be there. I even put little notes about why I chose each thing. And as a quick reminder, please leave me a comment if you've ever run this race or are thinking of running it. Let me know if you think my comments about it are valid or if you have anything extra you want to mention. I love hearing from other runners. And please leave a like if you like this video and subscribe if you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.